Listen to the 3 words federal Judge Richard Berman stated that made FBI Director Kash Patel's face drain of color and sent legal shockwaves through Washington. Immediate arrest threatened. On January 16, 2026 at 3:02 p.m. during extraordinary contempt hearing in federal district court, Judge Berman delivered ultimatum that no FBI director in American history has ever faced, comply with court orders to release Epstein files by January 19 at 5 p.m., or federal marshals will arrest FBI Director Kash Patel immediately and hold him in federal detention without trial, without hearing, without bond until he complies with judicial authority. He has defied for 6 months through systematic obstruction, documented as legal evidence before federal court. Kash Patel didn't expect Judge Berman would threaten criminal contempt charges under 18 U.S.C. Section 401, allowing immediate arrest and indefinite detention, didn't expect federal judge would state publicly on January 19 at 5:01 p.m., if those documents have not been delivered, I will sign arrest warrant, and federal marshals will take you into custody immediately, and didn't expect additional threat of disbarment proceedings that would strip his law licenses permanently across multiple jurisdictions for willful defiance of constitutional authority. What did January 16 hearing reveal about how Kash Patel's protection of Donald Trump from Epstein files exposure had pushed federal judiciary to breaking point where even FBI director could be jailed for contempt, and why does 24-hour countdown to January 19th deadline create a constitutional crisis where Patel must choose between releasing documents potentially exposing Trump's Epstein connections or becoming first FBI director in history arrested for obstruction of justice, documented as legal evidence before federal court? January 16, 2026, 2:47 p.m. United States District Court for District of Columbia, Courtroom 17. Federal Judge Richard Berman presided over what would become most extraordinary contempt hearing in modern American judicial history, sitting federal judge preparing to jail sitting FBI director for refusing to comply with court orders requiring release of documents about Jeffrey Epstein investigation and Trump's connections to convicted sex trafficker. FBI Director Kash Patel sat at defense table with legal team of 5 attorneys projecting bureaucratic confidence he had deployed throughout months of congressional testimony. His strategy had been consistent before federal court, claim every document either classified, privileged, or subject to ongoing investigation restrictions. But federal judges possess enforcement power that transcends political theater. They can jail people for defiance. Director Patel, Judge Berman began at 2:48 p.m., voice carrying controlled fury of someone who had exhausted patience months ago. We are here today because you have repeatedly refused to comply with this court's orders to produce documents subpoenaed by Congress and requested under FOIA regarding FBI investigations into Jeffrey Epstein's criminal network. Judge held up thick file serving as legal evidence. This court has issued 4 separate orders over past 6 months directing you to release these materials. You have defied every single one with claims of privilege that 3 separate federal courts, including D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals, have explicitly rejected. Pause. Every reporter present understood significance. 3 appellate rejections meant Patel's legal arguments had been demolished at highest levels before federal court. So I'm going to ask you directly. Judge Berman continued, staring at FBI Director, do you intend to comply with this court's orders? Kash Patel's attorney stood at 2:49 p.m. Your Honor, FBI continues to maintain that certain materials are protected by attorney-client privilege, executive privilege, and ongoing investigation confidentiality. Counsel, sit down. Judge Berman commanded sharply. I didn't ask you. I asked Director Patel, and I'm asking specifically about documents that courts have already ruled are not privileged, not classified, and not subject to exemptions. Director Patel, will you comply? At exactly 2:50 p.m., 2 minutes into hearing, Kash Patel made decision that would put him on collision course with federal incarceration. Your Honor, FBI has serious concerns about releasing materials that could compromise national security and ongoing investigative methods. We believe these documents should remain. That's not an answer to my question. Judge Berman interrupted, voice now carrying unmistakable warning, documented as legal evidence before federal court. Yes or no? Will you comply with this court's order to produce subpoenaed documents? Kash Patel hesitated, glancing at legal team, then gave answer triggering contempt process. Your Honor, we believe additional review is necessary before— Stop right there, Judge Berman stated, tone ice cold. Director Patel, I want to make something crystal clear to you. Judge leaned forward at 2:51 p.m., delivering legal framework that made his threat not just credible but virtually unstoppable before federal court. This court has reviewed your claims of privilege exhaustively. 3 federal courts have rejected them. The documents in question are not classified. Intelligence community has confirmed that they are not subject to attorney-client privilege. Your privilege log was deficient and failed to establish any valid claim. They are not protected by executive privilege. Supreme Court settled that question in United States versus Nixon. Pause for emphasis serving as legal evidence. So when I ask if you will comply with this court's order, what I'm actually asking is, are you choosing to defy constitutional authority of federal judiciary? Because that is contempt of court, and contempt carries immediate consequences. Courtroom absolutely silent. Every person present recognized unprecedented confrontation between judicial authority and executive branch obstruction documented before federal court. Your Honor, Patel's attorney attempted again at 2:52 p.m. We respectfully request additional time. Judge Berman's voice rose. You've had 6 months. This court gave you 30 days after first order, then 60 days after second order, then 90 days after third order. You have used every single extension to file more motions, make more privilege claims, and create more delay. The time for extensions is over. Then, at exactly 2:53 p.m., Judge Berman delivered ultimatum that would dominate news coverage for next 48 hours as legal evidence of judicial authority. Director Patel, I am giving you final deadline. You will produce all court-ordered documents in full and unredacted by January 19th at 5 p.m. That is approximately 50 hours from now. If you fail to comply, I will issue warrant for your immediate arrest on criminal contempt charges. Word arrest sent shockwaves through courtroom before federal court. Federal judges threatening immediate arrest for contempt was rare. Threatening FBI director with arrest was unprecedented in American history. Your Honor. Patel's attorney objected. Surely the court wouldn't. Oh, I absolutely would, Judge Berman said with devastating clarity, documented as legal evidence. And let me explain exactly what will happen if Director Patel continues this obstruction. Judge consulted notes at 2:54 p.m., then delivered procedural framework making threat legally ironclad before federal court. On January 19th at 5:01 p.m., if those documents have not been delivered to this court in full compliance with my orders, I will sign arrest warrant. Federal marshals will take Director Patel into custody immediately. He will be held in federal detention until such time as he purges his contempt by complying with this court's orders. Pause, ensuring every word understood as legal evidence. There is no middle ground here, Director Patel. Either you comply with constitutional authority or you go to jail. Those are your only 2 options. Kash Patel's face visibly paled at 2:55 p.m. Confident bureaucrat who had spent months deflecting congressional questions and hiding behind privilege claims was now facing federal judge with actual power to enforce consequences documented before federal court. Your Honor, with respect, attorney tried desperately. The FBI director has significant responsibilities that would make detention highly disruptive. Then I suggest he comply with my order, Judge Berman replied coldly. The FBI director is not above the law, he is not exempt from constitutional requirements, and he does not get to decide which court orders he will follow and which he will ignore based on political convenience. At 2:56 p.m., Judge continued with legal framework, making threat not just credible but unstoppable as legal evidence before federal court. This court is prepared to issue criminal contempt charges under Title 18, United States Code, Section 401. Criminal contempt allows for immediate arrest and detention without hearing. Director Patel would be taken into custody by federal marshals and held until he agrees to comply. That's not negotiation. That's not threat. That's how contempt of court works. Then Judge Berman delivered additional consequence, making compliance even more urgent at 2:57 p.m. Furthermore, I am prepared to refer this matter to relevant state bar associations for potential disbarment proceedings. Director Patel holds law licenses in multiple jurisdictions. Willful defiance of court orders is grounds for professional discipline, including disbarment. If he chooses to defy this court, he won't just lose his freedom temporarily. He could lose his law license permanently. Stakes now existential before federal court. Comply or face arrest, detention, and career destruction, documented as legal evidence. Your Honor, Kash Patel finally spoke directly at 2:58 p.m. Voice strained, the documents in question contain sensitive information about ongoing investigations. What ongoing investigations? Judge Berman interrupted sharply. Jeffrey Epstein is dead. Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison. The criminal investigation is closed. You keep claiming ongoing investigation privilege for investigation that ended years ago. That's not legal argument, that's obstruction. Judge pulled out another document at 2:59 p.m. serving as legal evidence. And let me address your other excuse. You claim these documents would compromise national security. But Director of National Intelligence has submitted declaration to this court stating unequivocally that none of subpoenaed materials contain classified information. So that excuse is also false. Then Judge made connection between Patel's document withholding and broader obstruction before federal court at 3 p.m. This court notes that while Director Patel claims he cannot release Epstein investigation files, he has somehow found time to authorize release of files targeting Trump's political opponents. That selective application of supposed privilege claims suggests these are not good faith legal arguments, but rather politically motivated obstruction documented as legal evidence. At exactly 3:02 p.m., 15 minutes into hearing, Judge Berman delivered final warning before federal court. Director Patel, you have approximately 50 hours, January 19th, 5 p.m. Every document ordered by this court delivered in full compliance. If you fail to meet that deadline, federal marshals will arrest you immediately. You will be held in federal detention until you comply. There will be no hearing. There will be no appeal before arrest. You will simply go to jail. Judge paused, ensuring cameras captured words, serving as legal evidence. And I want to be clear about something else. This deadline coincides with court-ordered release of additional Epstein files this morning, January 18th. If you are hoping that releasing some materials will satisfy this court's orders, you are mistaken. I want everything this court has ordered. Not selected documents, not redacted versions. Everything. Your Honor. Attorney tried one final deflection at 3:03 p.m. Surely the court recognizes that FBI director has constitutional authority over executive branch investigations. The FBI director has no authority to defy court orders. Judge Berman cut him off before federal court. None. Zero. The Constitution is very clear about separation of powers and judicial authority. Director Patel can claim executive authority all he wants, but when federal court issues lawful order based on constitutional authority, he must comply, period. Judge gathered papers at 3:04 p.m. This hearing is adjourned. Director Patel, you have your deadline. I suggest you use next 50 hours wisely, because on January 19th at 5:01 p.m., you will either be in compliance or in custody. Those are your only options documented as legal evidence before this federal court. Today, January 18th, 2026, with 29 hours until deadline, Kash Patel faces choice. No FBI director has confronted, release Epstein files potentially exposing Trump connections, or become first FBI director jailed for contempt. Creating constitutional crisis, documented as legal evidence before federal court, and American public demanding justice. The implications extend beyond single individual's fate. Judge Berman's willingness to jail FBI director establishes precedent that no executive official can defy lawful court orders, regardless of position, reshaping balance between judiciary and executive branch, documented as legal evidence before federal court. Legal scholars analyzing January 16th hearing noted extraordinary nature of threat. Georgetown law professor Jonathan Turley explained, federal judges rarely threaten immediate arrest for contempt, but when they do, they almost always follow through. Contempt power is one of judiciary's most fundamental authorities. Without it, courts would be powerless to enforce orders against defiant officials. What makes this case unprecedented is target. FBI director is supposed to be nation's chief federal law enforcement officer. Having that person jailed for defying judicial authority would be catastrophic institutional crisis. But alternative, allowing Kash Patel to ignore court orders with impunity would be worse, effectively placing executive branch officials above law, documented before federal court. By January 18th evening, with deadline less than 24 hours away, sources close to FBI director suggested Kash Patel believed Trump would protect him through executive privilege, assertion, pardon, or political pressure on judiciary. But Judge Berman had made clear none of those options would prevent arrest documented as legal evidence. Executive privilege had been rejected by 3 federal courts. Pardons don't apply to civil contempt, only criminal contempt after conviction. And judges are constitutionally independent from political pressure, appointed for life precisely to resist such interference before federal court. Congressional sources revealed what Kash Patel had been hiding. Subpoenaed documents reportedly included FBI investigative files showing Trump's extensive social connections to Epstein, witness interviews describing Trump's presence at Epstein properties, and internal FBI communications about political pressure to downplay or terminate investigations involving Trump documented as legal evidence. Most damning, FBI agents had recommended criminal investigation of Trump's connections to Epstein's trafficking operation, but recommendation was overruled after political intervention from Trump appointees. Kash